Welcome everybody to Unraveling the Unexplained. My name is Kat. I'm a longtime astral traveler and spirit consultant. This is my brother John, longtime fan of the paranormal.
Good evening, everybody.
He has picked out a video for me to react to. I don't know what it is, but let's jump into it and find out together. This video contains controversial subjects. You don't say.
Can't be too controversial if it's the internet.
Viewer discretion is advised. Viewer discretion is advised, I guess.
Tree is very controversial.
The Hoia Baciu Forest is a fascinating place. Once you cross its boundaries, you find yourself immersed in a world of magic that truly captivates your mind.
I do like a magic forest.
It's got a kind of classic feel to it, doesn't it?
It does. Very fairy tale.
Although the forest lays a few kilometers away from the city of Cluj-Napoca, the heart of Transylvania, it still holds a wild, untamed spirit, which reminds us of the importance that nature holds in our lives. Locals nearby are familiar with the strange energies contained inside. Because of fear, the forest remained for a long period of time shrouded in mystery. At the north of Valea Lunga, the Long Valley, in a place called Gura Baciului, the Shepherd's Mouth, is the oldest Neolithic settlement in Romania. The area was investigated by archaeologists using systematic excavations, uncovering various tombs and houses between 1960 and 1994. The place itself is a mythical source of lore and legends. One of these legends mentions a shepherd that disappeared with his flock of sheep, getting lost in the dark depths. It is said that over the years, more than 1,000 people have vanished. One such case involved the disappearance of a 5-year-old girl who got lost wandering into the woods. After a few rescue attempts, there were no traces of her. She returned 5 years later, emerging from the wilderness, wearing the exact same clothes, preserved in perfect condition. She had absolutely no memory of where she had been or what happened to her. 5 other people who vanished in similar conditions also turned up later, only in these cases they were found dead. It was determined that all of these recovered bodies had died of suicide. The first sign of unusual activity is made up by the trees, bent towards the ground in a manner difficult to understand, transforming the place in a visual wonder. Many trees bowed themselves instead of rising up, while others grow in a twisted or sideways manner, seized in a strange dance with the unknown. In many places, there are as many as 7 or 8 trunks growing from the same roots. Researchers determine that these deformations and displacements happen suddenly, in very short periods of time, with no logical explanation.
I'm already a little bit confused about his explanation,
Apparently in this forest, trees grow in like a weird bent kind of way. Instead of straight up, like you'll see some that'll, like the trunk will be bent over like so. And others, like instead of one tree, you'll have like multiple trunks sprouting up from the same one. And there's no real explanation for why they do this.
But it happens suddenly in a short period of time, or they just grew that way,
I think what it refers to is that they do it in a relatively like short time frame for trees that live for a long time.
Okay. I was unclear if he was talking about suddenly trees burst forth that way, or how it happened.
No, I don't think
all the trees that are like that all came up at the same time. You know what I mean?
Within like a short relative time frame.
Right, there was maybe something that happened in the ground or atmospheric where the trees that came up in that short time frame were all the same way.
Effect. Yeah.
I was unclear about his explanation.
Yeah, I don't think there's any video of trees swiftly growing
That's
visually.
What I'm saying is that was wait, what?
In the northwestern part, you can find the most well-known area, the so-called Poiana Rotundă, the Round Meadow. an almost perfectly circular opening where vegetation barely grows. It originates from more than 200 years ago. Now, the soil has been analyzed multiple times, and there were no reasons why this could be happening. The modern history of Hoia Baciu began in 1953, when biologist Alexandru Sift discovered a strange phenomenon there. Mesmerized by the urban legends, he began making many trips to the enigmatic forest. Shortly, the man discovered that he was being followed by unearthly shadows, which he tried to capture on film. After developing the photos, he made an intriguing discovery. Along with those shadows, strange objects and silhouettes appeared out of nowhere, even though he was convinced that he had never seen them before. The amazing results attracted other scientists, which started to suspect that the mystery was somehow connected to light and magnetism phenomena. On August 18, 1968, 45-year-old military technician Emil Barnea was spending his Sunday here, along with his girlfriend and 2 other friends. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, while he was gathering branches for the fire, he heard his friend calling for him to return fast, to see something in the sky. Once he arrived in the round meadow, he saw a large round silver object, moving slowly, without making a single sound. Being amazed, he reached for the camera and took a few shots. The UFO started to flash very brightly and to twist in the air. Eventually, it accelerated in a slightly angled direction and vanished. After they passed the communist censorship of the time, the pictures were taken by the National Press Agency and sent abroad, where they gained ground in the paranormal literature. The photos were studied by experts in research institutes from Europe and the United States, all cataloging them as authentic. The high interest was due to their amazing quality, but also because of the precious details captured, which ensured their authenticity. In 1994, Călin Turcu, one of the most important ufologists in Romania, published an interesting letter soon after Emil Barnea's death, written by a close friend of him, who heard that the military technician was being visited by strange individuals who took him to the Central Committee of the Communist Party. The man was questioned by the Securitate officers and forced to hand in all the films and the original photos that he had, with a promise of them being returned, a thing that never happened. In all this time, Alexandru Sift continued his attempt to solve the mystery and gathered an impressive collection of over 25,000 films, capturing the presence of structures invisible to the naked eye. In 1974, Sift met Professor Adrian Pătruț, who was part of a team interested in paranormal activity. After the biologist passed away in 1993, most of his collection vanished without a trace, in very suspicious circumstances. According to Adrian Pătruț, some strangers broke into the old house and stole the documents, destroying them shortly after. Even so, enough evidence was left to raise some serious question marks. The professor continues to claim to this day that the strange phenomena have a scientific basis which has yet to be understood. The most typical sightings happen in the skies. An important number of witnesses filmed or photographed UFOs in different shapes and sizes, from fire spheres to pyramids. The forest is also famous for the UFOs invisible to the normal spectrum, which appear in flight after developing the images. Another classification belongs to bioforms, beings that look a lot like humans and animals. Visible or not to the naked eye, they usually take the shape of an actual living or deceased person who had a major impact on the witness. On a well-known image we can see the grotesque caption of a face in thin air. On another, the head of a man spawned at the edge of the woods, painting a gruesome landscape. Adrian Pătruț said that he witnessed a lot of unusual things. One of them took place in January 1975, when he found some mysterious ruins. He was with a large group of friends, and together they made hundreds of pictures. After 2 weeks, Still troubled by the positive sensation he felt it there, Patruț returned to search the place, but the ruins were nowhere to be found. After a few years, their outlines simply vanished from the pictures. Another time, in winter, alongside other travelers, he saw various footprints in the snow that suddenly stopped, as if their makers were vacuumed into nothingness. Hoia Baciu is also surrounded by unearthly noises. Witnesses often report loud ambulance sounds that echo through the woods, clock ticks, sounds made by exploding tires, and all kinds of quick and strange screams or giggles. And since we're talking about electronic equipment, very often the batteries discharge all of a sudden, as if the forest is feeding with their energy. The unusual creatures took their part in the local folklore. The team led by Adrian Patruț encountered animals that had nothing to do with Cluj-Napoca whatsoever. In one such trip, they met a bustard. This particular bird is on the edge of extinction and never lived here.
That's an unfortunate name for that bird.
Sorry. We're so childish. They made a bastard.
It is what the bird is called. A total bustard.
It's called a dustard. Is that what it was? Okay. Alright, now we've had our giggle.
The researchers tried to catch it but failed, and after a short period of time the bird simply disappeared behind the bushes. The same thing happened with a large cat resembling a leopard. Those who accidentally cross the so-called active areas, considered by some as being doors to other worlds, end up with burn marks, scratches, excessive thirst, anxiety, and even blackouts. On a paranormal visit, an investigator was believed to be thrown to the ground and harmed by an unseen entity. Andrei Dorobanțu, professor and physicist, spoke repeatedly about the trip of some paranormal lovers who photographed themselves in Hoia Baciu, only to notice when developing that their faces were severely deformed and each of them seemed to have multiple heads. The physicist also talked about the nightmare lived by a television crew who went through the forest without knowing where they are. At some point, the driver suddenly hit the brakes, being convinced that he killed an old lady who appeared again out of nowhere. Some people ventured into the forest for a short time, only to exit and find search parties looking for them. You can see why the BBC labeled this place as the world's most haunted forest. There is a common idea that Hoia Baciu is an interdimensional gateway through which other entities can enter the physical world. The spiritualists claim that the forest is a portal between the astral dimension and the earthly one, a place where the souls of the dead remain stuck for 40 days. With so little actual evidence, skeptics say these are just stories made for entertainment. The investigators came to the following conclusion. The manifestations in the forest are discrete but continuous in time, uncontested by most. Whatever the answer may be, the Hoia Baciu Forest remains a living legend. The intensity with which attracts those who want to solve the mysteries of the universe grows every year. It is visited by tourists from all over the world, ranging from people coming out of a morbid curiosity or in the hope of seeing something eerie, to those whose beliefs could be considered controversial, like Satan worshippers. It's also very popular among Wiccans, who see it as a place of great power that can expand the effectiveness of their spells. Despite all the opposition, a true explanation has yet to come. But maybe the truth, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. I'm curious, what do you think about all of this? Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.
Interesting. We will link this video in the description box. We'll link the original channel. That way you guys can go check out the original channel, the original video. Please support the original creators. They appreciate it, and so do we.
So, what do you think of the
honestly,
haunted forest?
I mean, destination spots.
I think
we got another one for our list.
I mean, come on, Transylvania. How could we not want to go someday?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot kind of going on there, both manifestation kind of stuff, UFO stuff, ghost stuff, all of it packed into one very cool forest.
Yeah, I think there's such a thing as places where the energy convergences are such that what's the old school way of saying the veil is thin in certain places, right?
Yeah, you got
And
that circle in the center. So,
well, in the whole place is plainly like, okay, why do trees grow up? Because they're reaching towards the sun.
mm-hmm.
So if you have trees that are growing sideways like that, it makes you feel like maybe they partially existing in a dimension where the sun is at, where that is up. And it just looks that way to us because it's different here, right?
Yeah,
Like it's interesting that, I think you do have certain places where the convergences of energies are such that I mean, they were talking about places where the astral plane and the physical plane cross over, but I mean, I think it's entirely possible that there are a bunch of different dimensions and a bunch of different things happening, and then you just have certain places that are a thinning of the whatever the layers in between where is it possible that you see a lot more what we think of as alien activity in an area like that? Well, yeah, it's easier to see it happening there because it's
there's more of those other places kind of spilling into here.
yeah, it's the difference between, normally we've got our blackout curtains up so we can all sleep. But what if, this forest is more like shears on.
Yeah,
So it's just easier to see through them. The material that's keeping dimensions, the experience of the dimensions apart is a sheer kind of thing in certain places.
and it's like resulting in trees kind of growing in the direction of whatever energy they get out of those other places.
Yeah.
And that circle is this very specific like spot where, I mean, with nothing growing there specifically, would that be like is it's a specific blank spot or it's like the actual center point?
I think it's entirely possible that in a closely related dimension there's something there.
Something that like just means that whatever energy it's causing stuff knows not to grow there.
Right. Yeah, because the veil is very thin between the dimensions. So if you have something like in an alternate dimension where there's that specific area has something there, regardless of what it is, a structure or a big boulder or whatever, the realities are thin enough right there to where just nothing grows. If the trees are obviously having the experience of growing sideways because they're experiencing another reality in this place, then trees don't grow in the place where it's blocked from them growing in another dimension. I mean, that
Right.
makes sense to me.
And then you got the people who are disappearing or disappearing then reappearing. The little girl who vanished for 5 years.
Yeah, and that's interesting. There's a lot of crossover with that and stories of like, or at least stories of like the Fey realms and like changeling children and people who go missing into other dimensions only to reappear later. You have some old Japanese stories that are like that too, where people got disappeared into the kami realms and didn't reemerge for until years later. I think it's possible that just like the trees, if you wander into the forest and you don't you end up wandering into that other experience.
You're gonna kind of experience a bit of a time slip.
Yeah, time and space don't work the same way as in all dimensions. So you could be gone for what you thought was 5 hours, but it turned out to be 5 years or 500 years.
It is it is interesting to see all the different ways the effects can manifest because you got the time slips, you've got people seeing UFOs, you've got the sighting of weird animals
Yeah, it's possible there are weird animals and other.
that just sort of briefly wander and become visible here.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying is where the veil is thin, especially it sounds like across multiple dimensional spaces, right? It's a dimensional convergence. Like the only thing actually keeping realities separate, because everything is all simultaneous, all of existence is happening at the same time. It's all one now moment. And the only thing that's keeping it separate for any of the existences is our closed off perception. It's like we're horses that have the blinders on. And there are places, like I said, it's like normally it's the blackout curtains that keep out everything from the outside, all the light, all of that, right? But there are places where the curtains are shears for whatever reason and are letting through enough of the light and enough of the experience from other dimensions
that you get to see some stuff.
That you can see some stuff. You could cross through the barrier. You could end up, especially it looks like photography and stuff is capturing. There was instances of people having their photos come out distorted, their faces coming out distorted, like they were partially in another realm and didn't realize that they were, because it's not fully capturing their presence here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a place where the fabric between realities is just really thin.
It seems to be a theme we're coming across more and more in these videos. Places that are, for lack of a better term, kind of not really doorways so much as just, like you said, a place where the blinds are a little thin.
Right.
Letting people get a peek at whatever it is that might be on the other side, or letting it get a peek at us too.
Well, yeah. There's places where the energy convergence is like that physically, but most of the blinders are all in your own consciousness, in your own mind. Remember, I've said on multiple occasions before that it has to do with whether or not you're willing to accept, believe, and notice stuff yourself. So you also have a case of, once again, a location, a lot of history of weird stuff happening in the location.
And some people specifically going out to check out that history. Some people
specifically go there to check that out. They're, you know what I mean? So they're already open-minded to it. They're already expecting it and wanting it. You know, I'm sure for all of the many reports of people who experience strange stuff in the forest, there are thousands and thousands of more people who wander in the forest and never notice anything at all.
Yeah. When I was looking at videos about this forest, there were a number that were about people who actually just went out to camp there, you know? So yeah. There are quite a few people that make a point of going there and camping out and recording the results.
Yeah, it's a destiny. It's a spooky destination, right? So a lot of people go there with that already in mind. As far as I'm aware, you can experience strange stuff anywhere if you're open-minded about letting it in and experiencing it. But I think that there are certain places where the way the energy works is it's easier, the veil is thin there to begin with, and especially when you walk into it with an open mind, wanting to see stuff, experience things, and
you're gonna end up seeing some stuff.
Right, it's a good combination to have energetically to be able to see and experience stuff. It's honestly probably not super wise. You know, if it's possible to accidentally walk into another dimension and not know how to get back and not how to, you know,
well, you heard the video itself. There's been over 1,000 disappearances there. Not all of them were found, and
some of them that were found as bodies. Right?
Yeah.
So it's, you know,
it can be fun to play, but
it's probably not entirely, or at least if you're gonna be aware of what can happen, right? Like, it's probably not entirely wise to go wandering in if you don't know what you're doing. It's the same as like. It's the same as you don't know what you're doing. It's not, you know, I don't recommend you try to rewire electrical systems either.
Unless you got some training or...
If you don't know what you're doing, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Still, potential future destination to visit and check out, if not necessarily camp.
Yeah, I would be out before dark.
Yeah.
Get back to the hotel.
Yeah, and fun to check out at high noon when the sun is nice and up, but
if for no other reason than your own mind is going to get to spookier thought processes as soon as it gets dark, it opens up the pathways for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to reenact the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, I know I'd be out there laying in the tent, like, be in my phone, sniffling.
Well, all right.
But it looks super cool, and I would be down to go check it out and go hiking and go look around at least in it.
Yeah, definitely.
Let us know what you think. Drop us a comment. Let us know if you think we're crazy, if you think we're onto something. If you have videos or instances you'd like us to check out, drop a comment and let us know. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Again, remember to click on the original creators. They sure do appreciate it. And we will see you guys next time on Unraveling the Unexplained.
Have a good evening, folks.